I still dream about the house. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and swear I can hear the boards creaking under my feet, smell the rot and dust, feel the air turn cold around me. When I blink, I still see them, Ryan, Sophie, Mark, Tessa, standing at the top of that staircase, their faces frozen in terror. It's been 5 years. But the house never left me. They say survivors are lucky. But what they don't tell you is that luck feels a lot like guilt that never stops screaming. The doctors called it trauma. The priests called it a haunting. I call it justice I never asked for. Back then I was 17. Clearwater was the kind of small Oregon town where nothing ever happened. Gray skies, pine forests, empty streets. The kind of place that makes silence sound heavier. My parents were both doctors, always working, always expecting. My future was already written. Medical school, white coat, perfect son. But all I wanted was to breathe. I remember that afternoon clearly. The bell rang and students spilled into the courtyard. I grabbed my physics notes and walked to my usual spot under the old oak tree. The leaves were crimson, ready to fall. That's where Ryan found me. Messy hair, cocky smile, he always carried chaos like it was cologne. "Bro, you're such a freak," he said, kicking my bag lightly. "It's Friday." "People have fun on Fridays." "Some of us like having a future," I muttered, still scribbling formulas. He dropped down next to me, grin widening. "Sophie's going to be at my place tonight. We're hanging out. You should come." That got my attention. Sophie Bennett, quiet, graceful, the kind of girl who made the world sound softer. I'd liked her since freshman year, but never said a word. Ryan caught the look on my face and laughed. "You're so obvious, man. Come on. You, me, Sophie, Tessa, and Mark. One last night before graduation. What are we doing?" His grin turned wicked. "You ever heard of Thompson House?" I froze. "The murder house?" He nodded. "Exactly. We're going there." "Why?" He pulled something from his backpack, a worn wooden board, letters carved deep into it. A black triangular piece of wood with a glass eye in the center slid across it. "Because we've got this." The word Ouija was scratched into the corner. I laughed nervously. "You can't be serious." He leaned closer. "Come on, man. You believe in ghosts?" I didn't. At least I didn't want to. But that night, when Sophie smiled at me from across the hallway, everything rational inside me started to crumble. "Fine," I said. "But if we die, it's your fault." That evening, clouds thickened over Clearwater. Thunder rolled far away, like the earth was warning us. I sat at my desk trying to study, but I couldn't focus. The walls felt too quiet, the shadows too deep. I remember looking at my reflection in the window. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing behind me, a man in an old coat, face blurred, holding a cane. When I turned, the room was empty. My phone buzzed. "Ryan, 9 p.m., don't be late. Bring snacks." I tried to type no, but my fingers wouldn't move. Instead, I found myself typing back, "Me. See you soon." The storm outside began to howl, and that's when I heard it. Soft, faint, almost lost in the wind. "Ethan," my name, spoken in a voice I hadn't heard in 10 years. "Ethan, don't go tonight." I froze. The sound came from the attic, 3 knocks echoing through the ceiling. My heart started racing. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the stairs, every step groaning under my weight. When I reached the top, the air was icy. My breath came out in clouds. The attic door creaked open by itself. Inside, the single bulb flickered on and off. In the corner stood an old rocking chair that hadn't moved in years. But now it was rocking, slowly back and forth. On the seat lay a photograph. It was me as a child, sitting on my grandfather's lap. But there was something wrong. In the photo, Grandpa's eyes were blacked out and scrawled beneath in shaky handwriting, "Don't follow them." I dropped the flashlight. The light died, plunging everything into darkness. Somewhere behind me, I heard the chair creak again. Only now, it wasn't rocking. It was turning. I bolted down the stairs, heart hammering, slamming the attic door behind me. When I reached the living room, the lights were all on again. For a second, I thought I'd imagined it all, until I looked down and saw muddy footprints on the floor. Bare feet, leading from the front door to the attic stairs. I almost turned back twice on the way to Ryan's. The storm had stopped, but the sky still looked bruised, clouds low and heavy like they were hiding something. When I got there, the group was already waiting by Mark's old pickup. Ryan stood in front, flashlight under his chin, making faces at the girls. Sophie laughed nervously, her breath fogging in the cold. "Finally," Ryan said, "Dr. Miller decided to join us mortals." "Let's just get this over with," I said. Tessa handed me a can of soda. "You look pale. Didn't sleep much. If she only knew why." We drove through the forest road in silence. The only sound was the truck's wipers scraping against the windshield. No one spoke, not even Ryan. It was like something unseen was already pressing on us. By the time we reached the hill, fog was crawling across the ground. The Thompson house stood at the top, huge and skeletal. The porch sagged under its own weight. One of the upstairs windows was glowing faintly, though there was no power in the house. Sophie whispered, "Ryan, is someone in there?" He grinned. "Only if we're lucky." The gate creaked when we pushed it open. The second my foot touched the porch, I felt it. The air was different here. Heavier, thicker, like breathing through wet cloth. Inside, the smell hit us, mold, rot, and something metallic underneath. The air felt alive, whispering against my skin. Ryan swept his flashlight across the foyer. Wallpaper peeled off the walls in long, curling strips. Broken glass crunched under our shoes. On one wall, someone had drawn a huge red symbol, a circle with 3 slashes through it. "Damn," Mark muttered. "Was that blood?" "Paint," Ryan said, but his voice wasn't convincing. We explored. The living room was full of broken furniture and collapsed ceiling beams. Dust hung in the air like fog. On a table near the window sat a family photograph, half burned. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson stood smiling, their son between them. Someone had scratched out their eyes. "Creepy," Tessa whispered. Ryan set down his backpack and pulled out the Ouija board. "Perfect spot," he said. "Let's summon some ghosts." We sat in a circle, the board between us, a single candle flickering in the middle. The flame bent sideways, as if something was breathing on it. Ryan's grin looked forced now. "Everyone fingers on the planchette." We obeyed. "Is anyone here with us?" he said. Nothing. Then, a low creak. The rocking chair in the corner began to move by itself. Sophie gasped. "Did anyone touch that?" "No," I said, my pulse racing. Ryan chuckled weakly. "It's just wind. There are no windows open," Tessa said. The planchette jerked. Yes, all 5 of us froze. Ryan swallowed. "Okay, who are we talking to?" The piece moved again, faster this time. S-O-N. Sophie whispered, "The sun." Their kid. The candlelight dimmed. The shadows stretched along the floor, twisting like they were alive. Ryan licked his lips. "What do you want from us?" The planchette scraped so violently it tore splinters from the wood. G-E-T-O-U-T. "Okay," Tessa shouted, pulling her hands away. "We're done!" But Ryan wouldn't stop. "Why?" "What happens if we don't?" The planchette spun, faster and faster, until it flew off the board and clattered across the floor. Then from upstairs, thud footsteps. Slow, heavy. Mark aimed his flashlight toward the staircase. "Hello." The beam flickered. A man stood at the top of the stairs. At least he used to be a man. His clothes were shredded, his skin gray and sagging. His head was tilted sideways, almost completely backward, his neck a grotesque angle. He opened his mouth and a dry, cracking whisper came out. "Why did you call me?" Sophie screamed. Ryan grabbed her arm. "Run, we bolted." The hallway stretched longer than before, like the house was twisting itself to keep us inside. Doors slammed by themselves. Lights flickered even though the power was dead. Mark kicked open a side door and froze. There was another room behind it, one that shouldn't exist. Dozens of dolls lined the shelves, their eyes missing, their heads cracked. On the far wall, written in jagged letters, "He makes us stay." Something moved behind the dolls, a shadow crawling along the wall, thin and long, like a spider made of smoke. Tessa screamed. "It's coming!" We ran. The front door was gone. The hallway ended in darkness. I turned back just in time to see Ryan lifted off the ground, dragged backward by something invisible. His scream tore through the air. "Ryan!" I lunged forward, but Sophie pulled me away. "Don't," she cried. "He's gone." A deep voice echoed from the walls, low, gurgling, almost human. One more. The lights exploded, plunging everything into blackness. I felt cold hands grab my shoulders. A whisper brushed my ear. "Not you. Not yet." Then, nothing. When I woke up, I was lying on the ground outside, covered in dirt and rain. The house behind me was silent. The front door was shut. No one else came out. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was fog, thick and white, rolling like waves over the wet grass. I was lying at the bottom of the hill, my clothes soaked, my body shaking. The house loomed above me, silent, dark, and whole. No broken windows, no flickering lights, just a dead, motionless shadow against the night sky. For a moment, I thought maybe it had all been a dream. Then I saw Sophie's phone lying beside me, screen cracked, a message half-typed. "Ethan, don't turn around." The rest was blank. I stumbled home sometime before dawn. My mind was fogged, my heartbeat out of rhythm. Every corner of the street looked wrong, like the world had been rearranged slightly while I was gone. The front door was unlocked. My dad's car wasn't there, but the living room lights were on. My mom sat on the couch, her arm in a sling, face pale as paper. "Ethan," she whispered when she saw me. "He saved you." "Who?" I asked. "Your grandfather," she said. "He came to me tonight. Said he traded something, my arm, for your life." Her voice trembled. "He said the others were already marked, but you still had time." I felt the room tilt. "How could you know that?" She didn't answer, just looked toward the hallway mirror, and for a split second, I saw him. A man in an old brown coat standing behind her reflection, smiling softly. Then he was gone. The next day, the police found the others, or what was left of them. They said Ryan's truck had crashed off a back road near the forest. The doors were locked from the inside. No signs of struggle. No fingerprints but theirs, but that wasn't possible, because I saw the house close behind us, and I know. I didn't drive home. I tried to explain. The officers exchanged glances and wrote something down, probably hallucination due to shock. But that night, something started happening. It began with whispers. At first faint like the wind through the attic vents, then clearer, sharper. "Ethan, we're still here. You shouldn't have left." I locked my bedroom door, shoved my headphones on, but the voices bled through the music. Around midnight, my phone lit up. Unknown number. A photo appeared on the screen. It was the living room of the Thompson house, but the furniture wasn't broken anymore. The walls were clean, the lights on, and there, sitting in the middle of the room, were Ryan, Sophie, Mark, and Tessa, smiling. Each of them was holding a candle, and between them on the floor, the Ouija board. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and cracked. The screen turned black, then flickered again. This time just one word appeared, written in burning white letters: "Join." The air in my room turned ice cold. My breath fogged. The walls began to hum, low and deep. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out. Somewhere in the dark, a voice whispered, "He can't protect you forever." 3 nights after the funeral, I went back. I told myself I just needed closure, one last look at the house before the police boarded it up for good. But deep down I knew the truth. The house was calling me. The road up the hill looked different now. The trees leaned inward, branches like claws scraping against the gray sky. Every few seconds, my car headlights flickered, as if the power itself didn't want to follow me. When I reached the gate, the padlock was gone. The chain lay in the grass, twisted and rusted, though it hadn't been there 3 days ago. The front door creaked open on its own. Inside, the air hit me like a breath from the grave, cold, wet, full of rot. My flashlight cut through dust and cobwebs, catching glimpses of faces and torn wallpaper. Each face seemed to move when I wasn't looking. The hall felt longer, the stairs steeper. It was like walking into something that remembered me. Every footstep an echo the house recognized. Then I heard it. A soft hum. A woman's voice, low, wordless, drifting down the hall. I followed the sound to the living room. The Ouija board was gone, but the candle wax was still there, dried in a perfect circle. The hum turned into words, faint, distorted. "He never left." I spun around. The old family portrait was back on the wall. The Thompsons smiling, eyes clear, untouched. Except now, there was a fifth figure standing behind them, tall, shadowed, head bent, the man with the broken neck. My flashlight flickered. The photo changed. The Thompsons' faces turned gray, eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. A loud bang echoed from upstairs. Then footsteps running, fast. I backed away toward the door, but the air grew heavy, like water filling a room. Every breath was harder than the last. Another bang. Closer. Something was coming down the stairs. I could hear it before I saw it. The thud of each step. The dragging scrape that followed. Thud, scrape, thud, scrape. The hallway lights flickered violently, bursting one by one as the thing moved closer. Then silence. I turned my flashlight toward the staircase and froze. A shape stood there. Half shadow, half man, its neck hanging to one side like a broken branch. Its body twitched in sharp, unnatural jerks. It raised its head slowly until I could see its eyes, dark, hollow, but aware. "You brought me back," it rasped. "Now you'll finish what they started." The air pressure dropped. My ears popped. The walls trembled. I bolted. Every hallway looked wrong. Doors where windows should be, stairs looping into nowhere. The house was folding in on itself, trapping me inside. Something slammed behind me and the floorboards cracked under my feet. The air filled with whispers, hundreds of voices overlapping. "Stay! Stay! Stay!" I stumbled into the kitchen. The clock on the wall was ticking backward. The hand spun faster and faster until it shattered. All the cabinets burst open at once. Dishes flew, chairs toppled, the walls groaned. A loud ringing filled my head, too high, too sharp. I fell to my knees, clutching my ears. Then through the noise I heard one clear voice. "Ethan, run!" Sophie's voice. I looked up. She was standing at the doorway, pale but real, her eyes wide with fear. "Go," she cried. "He's inside you now." The lights exploded in a flash of white. For a second, everything went silent. No walls, no house, no air, just darkness. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in my car, engine running, parked halfway down the hill. My hands were shaking. My flashlight was gone. On the passenger seat sat a small object, a piece of wood, smooth and black, the planchette. For days after that night, I didn't sleep. Every sound in the house made me jump. The pipes, the fridge, even my own heartbeat. The police said there was no sign I'd ever gone inside Thompson House again. They found my car halfway down the hill, headlights still on, doors locked from the inside. They told my father I must have fallen asleep there. They didn't see the burns on my hands. They didn't see the word "join" faintly carved into my dashboard. A week later, my mom came home from another checkup. She smiled, but her eyes didn't match the smile. That night, I woke to the sound of her whispering. At first, I thought she was talking in her sleep. Then I realized the whisper wasn't coming from her room. It was coming from the attic. I froze. The air in the hallway was freezing cold again, just like before. Something inside me said, "Don't go," but I did anyway. Each step creaked under my weight. The attic door opened before I even touched it. The light was on. Inside, dust floated in slow motion. The old rocking chair was there, still, silent, and sitting in it was my grandfather. He looked exactly like I remembered. Gray sweater, kind eyes, the same gentle smile. But his eyes were wrong. Too dark, too deep. "You did well, Ethan," he said softly. "You survived." My throat went dry. "What are you?" "A debt collector," he whispered. "You were meant to die that night, but I took your place. The house doesn't like unfinished business." He tilted his head. "And now it follows you." I shook my head. No, it's over." He smiled. Sad, tired. "Is it?" The bulb above us flickered. The air thickened. Shadows stretched along the walls like long, reaching fingers. "Every time you dream," he said, "it finds a way back. Every time you remember them, you open the door again." Then his face began to fade, slowly, like smoke pulling apart. Before he vanished completely, he whispered, "Don't look behind you." I turned anyway. There was nothing there. Just the sound of the chair creaking behind me, rocking by itself. That was 5 years ago. Now I live in Portland, in a small apartment with too many locks. I don't go out after dark. I don't talk about Clearwater. Sometimes, though, I hear knocks on the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Always at midnight. When I look through the peephole, no one's there. But once I thought I saw something moving down the hallway. A shadow tilting slightly, its head bent at the neck. It stopped and whispered my name. "Ethan." I closed my eyes and told myself it wasn't real, but last night, when I woke up, the planchette was sitting on my nightstand again, clean, polished, waiting. I didn't touch it. This morning, it was gone, and on the mirror, written in fog, were 2 words, "Welcome home."